My first guest says the Democrats' so-called Inflation Reduction Act will do just the opposite if it comes to pass. Families and workers are going to see even higher prices and lower paychecks as $17 billion worth of proposed tax hikes are going to hit the middle class the hardest. He says it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to raise taxes during a recession. And yeah, we really are in one. Would you please welcome to the show for his first visit with us, Republican leader of the Budget Committee and Ways and Means Committee in the U.S. Congress, Jason Smith from the great state of Missouri. Well, Congressman, I was afraid that you heard me saying nice things about Nancy Pelosi. You might just head for the exits, but you didn't, and I thank you for that.
I was kind of surprised, but I would have to say it's one of the first times in my life that I probably would have said those same nice things about her.
Well, I really believe that it was an important moment that the U.S., at least that Pelosi and the people with her did not back down and buckle under the threats of China. We got some real problems in this country, and that's one of them, the appearance of weakness. What does America need to do to change that?
Well, there's a lot of things that we need to do. It seems like that in the last 18 months, we've just went into one crisis after another. People are struggling to put food on their table and clothes on their backs and gasoline in their cars. And it's because of the record inflation. It's the highest inflation in 40 years. It's gone up 13.8% since President Biden took the oath of office. And they're struggling. You
know, we hear from the White House that we don't have a recession, that it's just a transition. I find that crazy. You're the ranking member on the Ways and Means and the Budget Committee, so I think it's important from your perspective. Are we in a recession?
You know, Governor, for the last 75 years, recession has always been defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. The first quarter of this year was minus 1.6%. This last quarter was minus 0.9%. It's strange to me how this administration loves to redefine terms, whether it's a mother as being a birthing person or whether it's what a recession has been for the last 75 years.
But let's talk about the bill that the Democrats seem absolutely just determined to pass. And from all indications, the 2 holdouts from the Democrats, Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, they're going to vote for this. It has a lot of provisions for tax increases, though they say, oh, no, it doesn't raise taxes on anybody but the highest earners. Is that true?
That's absolutely not true. This is the wrong recipe, the wrong solution for what Americans are going through. This proposed piece of legislation is over $700 billion of spending, and it increases taxes by more than $600 billion. The last thing we need to do is to try to spend ourselves out of inflation and to tax our way out of a recession. It's the wrong recipe. When you're looking at the taxes in this proposal, almost half of them will be on the lower to middle income. And that is devastating when people right now trying to just figure out how to be able to live within their means.
Congressman, how do the Democrats get away with saying that it won't affect the middle and lower class earners? And it seems like the media goes along with it. I mean, the numbers don't reflect that.
Governor, just last year alone in the House of Representatives, more than $7.5 trillion with a T, of dollars was spent on top of just funding government.
Wow.
And they wonder why we have the highest inflation in 40 years. That's why last year inflation cost every family $3,500. And this year it's projected to cost every family $5,900. It's just over $490 a month that is taken from American families just because of reckless government spending.
Is there anybody in this crowd here tonight, just asking, for whom you don't care of the $5,900? How many of you are affected by $5,900 a year out of your pocket and paycheck? If somebody around you is not lifting his hand or her hand, Ask them for money, because obviously they're
Ask
fine.
them for a
That's
loan. No kidding.
And if I see them before you do, I'm asking them. When you say $5,900 per American family, we get our arms around that one. But even today, or this week at the White House, one of the reporters asked the White House press secretary, how come President Biden is bragging about gasoline that's still almost twice what it was when he took office? And she said, because it's going down, very smugly. But it is a huge issue for most American families. And he blamed the increase on Putin, but he's trying to take all the credit for any penny at which it goes down. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, Governor, I hate hearing the White House say that it's Putin's fault. Gas prices were already up 75% since Joe Biden took the oath of office. They're up over 90% right now since he's taken the oath of office, but they were already up over 75%. In his first few weeks in office, the executive orders and the war that he had on U.S. energy is what has caused the skyrocketing in our gas prices. Just in his budget, Governor, just in his budget that he released a couple months ago, he wanted to impose over $45 billion worth of tax increases on U.S. energy. Guess what? That goes directly to every American.
Of course it does.
And it's gonna come straight out of their pocketbook. It always does.
And they were also boasting that they had released oil from the strategic reserve. But the latest reports are China is getting that oil. Can you explain to me why on God's green earth we're selling, making it possible for China to have that oil rather than American citizens?
You can't explain that. It doesn't make sense. Whenever you pull oil from our strategic stockpiles because you want to lower prices, but then you sell it to the Chinese, there's not one individual could find that to make sense. In fact, myself and a couple other legislators submitted an amendment to try to prevent this from ever happening again. Of course, Speaker Pelosi wouldn't allow it out of the Rules Committee, wouldn't even allow us to have a vote on it, but it does not make sense.
Midterm elections, they're just a few months away. Most people think that Republicans will take the House. Let's assume for a moment that happens. How does that affect most citizens out here if Republicans win and Democrats don't keep the House?
It's extremely important. It all depends if we win the House and the Senate. We need to win both. But this doesn't happen every year. Put it this way, in the last 100 years, the House has only flipped from Democrat to Republican 4 times in 100 years. So if we can pull this off, it is extremely important. But if we can pull it off, it will allow us to put a check and balance on the White House. You know, of course, anything to be reversed would have to have his signature. And if he didn't sign it, it would take a 2/3 majority, which is very, very difficult.
Sure.
However, we can use the power of subpoena power and oversight. I serve on the House Ways and Means Committee and the Budget Committee. Going after IRS and looking into what the IRS is doing to Americans. This bill that is being proposed right now, what people don't know, Governor, is that they're asking for $80 billion to double the size of the IRS.
Oh, that's just great.
Because
we love that. Yeah.
We'll get a load of this because they want to hire 87,000 IRS agents to make sure that they're looking under every couch cushion to make sure you're paying every penny that you're supposed to the tax collector because they don't think you are. In fact, they're projecting if we put $80 billion in, we'll be able to find $200 billion by more auditing of everyone in this audience.
Congressman, we hope that, and I just want to be very genteel in saying this, we hope Republicans take the House, but for heaven's sakes, if you do, stand up, be tough, and take it to them because America needs someone to pull back the covers and show what is actually happening to our money that we earned and sent it to Washington. And I have a lot of confidence you're going to help do that. So make us proud.
You can count on that, Governor.
Thank you. Congressman Jason Smith, very delighted to have him. He will be a key player because if this flips, he'll be the chairman of the single most important committee in Congress, the Ways and Means, that controls all of the tax code. It is a big deal. Well, our great audience can learn a lot more about the Congressman's doings just by heading over to Huckabee.tv. We've got a link to his website and to all the ways in which you can find out exactly what Congressman Smith is doing, not just for the people of Missouri, but for you as well.